What's up everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Build Comp here in Terra Nova. In this episode, I'm gonna push some people down into holes because I'm jealous of their armor. It just looks so cool. So it's time to get my Netherite. Now, is there really a point to getting Netherite? Not particularly. The bonuses it provides are all negligible. Like the durability is the most noticeable one, but that's made irrelevant by mending. But it looks so super cool, so why not? The first step in this process is going to be making a bunch of naked sheep, then heading off to brave the dangers of the nether. Now, normally when I do this, I'm a little more prepared. Ideally, I want to have blast resistance armor and then some fire protection as well. Because if you have like 3 pieces of armor with maxed out blast resistance, the beds almost don't hurt you at all. And you can just spam place the beds constantly. But with just regular protection, like I have now, I can only place about 3 beds at a time. So I'm not sure if this is actually any faster or not. So I would highly recommend, if you're planning on going bed mining, to get blast protection, a potion of regeneration, and a potion of fire resistance. If you combine those 3 things, you can place an entire inventory's worth of beds just running backwards, like super crazy fast. And then the fire resistance will allow you to just swim up the lava to block it off. So you won't even have to pillar, and it'll save tons of time getting your netherite. But one problem with making these large areas, as I'm sure we all know, is a bunch of mobs are gonna start spawning. And the bigger it gets, eventually you have ghasts and all kinds of crazy stuff. Especially if you're using blast protection in order to maximize your bed mining. That'll make you weaker to mobs. But I only got 8 ancient debris from an entire inventory's worth of beds. And since I have to collect wool and I don't have blast protection or potions, I'm just gonna mine out the rest by hand. I do have fire resistance on my chest plate at least, so lava won't be an issue. The main reason I'm doing this is I actually need netherrack for my build. So I figured while I'm getting netherrack, I might as well get some ancient debris. And Google say the best place to mine for ancient debris is Y15. So if you're planning on mining by hand, head to Y15 for the best results. Then I'm going to head back and smelt all of these goodies, especially the gold ore blocks. You actually get more gold smelting the silk touched blocks than you do turning them into nuggets with fortune. I'm also going to upgrade my nether wart farm. I figure that if I place down some trapdoors, it'll make me tall enough to avoid mining out premature plants. So standing on the trapdoors, if I aim at the tippy top of a fully grown plant on the back row, it should avoid harvesting any premature plants. This will just increase efficiency and not waste any growth time, especially if I harvest this before the majority of it is fully grown, because I'm going to need a ton of nether wart. Since red bricks are our only option for red stairs in the entire game. And that's really frustrating, like our lack of choices and options when it comes to stairs and slabs. This is Peach's Castle, so I need a red roof. Peach's Castle has a red roof. But I'm worried that this nether roof is going to be kind of evil and dark looking, because we don't have like a vibrant red to use stairs and slabs with. Now I could muddle through and just use full blocks for the entire roof, but that just destroys your potential for detail, not having slabs and stairs and walls. I mean, concrete stairs and slabs, for example, should have been added 10 years ago. If they would just add concrete brick variations and then stairs and slabs and walls for each of those, the game is done. You could just stick a fork in it at that point. Builders would have so many tools to go nuts with. Creativity would explode. Where like as it is, creativity is stifled by our lack of stairs. Only having like 10 different stairs to choose from and most of them being gray or brown is just so stifling. It's like if I gave you a number 2 pencil and was like, here, be creative, compared to if I gave you thousands of colored pencils. It's obvious which one has more creative potential. I've played with mods that added concrete stairs and slabs, and it was breathtaking. What just adding 16 new stairs and 16 new slabs opened up. I mean, it was insane what you could do. Like statues, especially, just exploded. Your creative potential for medium-sized statues just went through the freaking roof. It was so amazing. Just adding 32 new blocks. Not even blocks, just stairs and slabs. But the majority of my time is going to be spent gathering netherwort and trading pumpkins and melons for quartz, because the sheer amount of blocks that I need for this is kind of staggering. But grinding out materials is really not that hard, as long as I gather them as I go along, and I don't wait until I desperately need them. But I am really nervous about this roof. Objectively, I'm kind of bad at roofs, and I have always used that as an excuse to not build them. But that is a super toxic mindset that is holding me back, so I need to shed that crutch and stop saying I can't do something. And pair my uncomfortability with building roofs with the fact that I'm going to need to duplicate this pattern on the other side, and I'm super nervous. It's not that this pattern is hard, but it's also not easy, because every single layer, I'm tweaking a block, I'm flying away, looking at the overall shape, flying back, tweaking a block, so it's all very tweaked. It doesn't follow an exact pattern each layer, so replicating this on the other side is going to be kind of difficult, I imagine, so I'm kind of dreading that. But it's always good to step out of your comfort zone and work on things that you think you can't do. Because who knows, you might surprise yourself, and at the very least, you'll learn something along the way. The only thing standing in the way of your own personal growth is you, and self-defeating, telling yourself that you can't do something, or that you suck at it. Like I've always told myself, I suck at roofs. But look at these are coming along. I have no clue what I'm doing, but it's working. And as with any art, it's trial and error. You can slowly change things and make them better. You just have to start somewhere. Even if you don't know what you're doing, I don't know what I'm doing. But you just get stuff there, and then change what you don't like about it. And each time you change what you don't like, it slowly becomes something that you do like. Just never start over. Unless you realize that you built your second tower one block too low. Like I just did. I built this whole other section one block too low, so I'm gonna have to break it all out and try again. Now, sometimes, like if I'd already completed this and it was one block too low, I would have just left it. No one would have ever noticed that it was one block too low. But I'm not so far into it that it's uber painful for me to reset. I'm only about 7 layers into it, so it's still painful, but it's acceptable. But again, if I'd already finished this tower, I would have just left it, because no one would ever notice that it's one block off, except for me. And if it is noticeable, you can work with it. Like how you handle mistakes when it comes to art is what it means to be an artist. Like Bob Ross used to say, there's no such thing as a mistake, only happy accidents. And that's because how you fix mistakes sometimes makes the art better. Just working around the mistake or with the mistake can make it unique, and it can lead to extreme moments of personal growth. Stepping outside of the cookie cutter process can be terrifying, and sometimes it doesn't work. But either way, it's a really great opportunity to learn and to grow. And this brings up something that I always avoid talking about, and that is holoprint. Now, holoprint and other build tools are not allowed in this competition, thankfully. But even if they were, I think holoprint is bad, because you're robbing yourself of potential growth. There's a huge difference between mindlessly copying something from creative using holoprint and designing something in survival from scratch. And even using screenshots to copy something complex from creative into survival. Even that, you have to constantly examine the details of the photo and then remember the patterns that you're trying to build. And it's that struggle that really hammers things into your long-term memory without you even noticing it. Closely examining details and patterns and trying to remember them long enough to copy is what leads to personal growth. Whereas when you use holoprint, you're robbing your future self of memory and, worst of all, of confidence. But I need a break from building, so let's go check out and see what's new. My shop has been vandalized yet again. Those darn kids just don't know when to stop. I'm missing a piece of snow on my igloo. So let's go find out where it went. I've heard through the grapevine that it's been relocated into the brand new museum. I've always loved the idea of museums, either for just in-game collectibles like the pottery shards or the armor trims, or for historical value, like they have all the news books, and they have these items that represent significant events that have transpired. Like there's the piece of my shop right there on the wall. And these aren't actually items, they're memories that people shared and made together. So having something like this can not only add historical value to the world, but also give you a way to feel nostalgic and look back at the journey that brought you to where you are. But my own journey continues with Rambo being super generous. He's given me a bunch of diamonds so that I can finally make my Netherite. I've been mining for hours and hours and just can't get the diamonds. And it's extra nice of him because I've been undercutting his bookstore. But we're going to go to my own wall of memories, my own little personal museum, grab my upgrade and some armor trims, and finally make my Netherite. No longer will I be ugly and blue, because now I'm going to upgrade to whatever color Netherite is. What color even is Netherite? It's like this purpley, blackish, grayish, weird dark color, but it looks really nice. Normally I would use diamonds as my trim color, just to be a little bougie. I would use Netherite, but you can't see the pattern if you use Netherite, so it's kind of pointless. But in all honesty, I like emeralds the best. The green is super duper vibrant. I do wish that the armor trims were a little more interesting and dynamic. Like Silence always really stood out to me as the best trim, and normally I would go out of my way to get it. But the new Flow trim is really cool and unique as well. In fact, I like the Flow helmet better than the Silence helmet. But what about you? Which trims and colors are your favorite? Do you like to mix and match different colors and patterns, or do you like to be uniform with the same sets? There's even some great online resources that let you see different combinations of trims and different colors to really pick out your personalized appearance. But now I'm going to work on some terraforming. I've always wanted a bridge here in the front entryway of the castle with a river cutting through, and terraforming is a really great break to the rigidity of structure building. You know, structures are all precise and tend to be symmetrical and just a lot of thought and effort. Whereas terraforming is organic. Nothing is precise. Nothing is set in stone. It's a great change when you're feeling overworked. But I do have these beacons that are going to be under the river. Now I'm pretty sure that beacons still work if they're underwater. And it looks like they do. That's awesome. So we can hide the beacons under the river. When it comes to making artificial rivers, I would highly recommend filling in the top layer first. Like start off with the river just one block deep. If you try to dig out the entire river, it's going to be a lot more effort to fill it up with water, because you'll have to fill it layer by layer. Whereas if you just make a single one deep layer with no holes in the floor, you can just place water along both sides and it will fill in the entire river. And from there, you can dig out the bottom of the river and the water will automatically turn into source blocks because there's source blocks everywhere above it. And so it's just a nice, easy way to make a river. Don't make it deep first, make it shallow, and then dig out the depths. And again, the great thing about terraforming is it never has to be a specific way. The only thing to avoid when it comes to terraforming is like symmetry and flatness. Like, when have you ever seen a flat symmetrical forest or a flat symmetrical river? It's like those things don't exist. It can be anything other than that when it comes to terrain. It also gives you the opportunity for little organic details, like a bridge. A bridge can be complex enough to give your brain something to work on, but it's also simple enough to where it can look like anything. Because a bridge is just a pathway over the water, so it can be nice and relaxing to work on, compared to a house or a castle or a statue. But I noticed this drowned has a jack-o'-lantern on his head, and now he's gonna give us a little dance. You gotta love the mob pathfinding in this game. We got some dancing drown just spinning in a circle forever and ever. Oh, that's too funny, too funny. I sat there for so long just laughing at that drown. Now, that was a nice little break to working on stuff. Same way with the organic builds. I did work on the entryway just a tiny bit, and I made the bridge a little bit wider. It looked a little too small for the castle the way it was before, but I think that this one is a good size. I also switched out the trim for the Pit Mario pixel art for red nether brick to match the roof, and I buried a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns underneath that to light up the area in an invisible way. But I kind of missed where this jack-o'-lantern was supposed to go, apparently. So let's go ahead and fix that really quick and put it where it's supposed to be. I prefer jack-o'-lanterns over torches because they don't have particle effects, they have a maximum light value, and you can't accidentally break them if you break the surrounding blocks. So the power of pumpkins is just a little bit better than torches all around. But the last thing we're going to do in this episode is build a piston door. I added the iron bars in the center to make it 3 blocks wide instead of 2, but you could replace that with glass panes, fences, walls. Any of those skinny blocks that connect would work the same, because when it's closed, it will connect to the door. But now let's go over how it works and how you build it, because it's super crazy simple. We have a pressure plate going into an extender, going into a torch, activating the pistons. The first section is just powering the row of pistons. So dust will power the piston that it's pointed into, and the block the dust is placed on will power pistons that are touching that block. So 1 dust on top of 1 solid block will power 2 pistons. To connect the pistons together, we can just run glass back and forth with dust on top, because glass doesn't pinch the redstone. So now all of these pistons are connected to the same line of dust. But if we step on the pressure plate as it is, it will power the pistons, which will close the door. So we want to invert the signal by adding a redstone torch. So now the pistons will be extended, so the door will be closed until we turn this torch off by stepping on the pressure plate. But it doesn't stay open long enough for us to actually make it through. So we need an extender to keep the signal active longer, which is just 2 comparators facing in opposite directions tied together with dust. This will extend the signal, so even after we get off of the pressure plate, the door will remain open for a tiny bit. But as it is currently, the doors will not close in a synchronized manner because there is a different amount of dust in between the pressure plate and each of the extenders. So we want each extender to have the same initial signal strength. And we can do this by placing a repeater going into each of the extenders that is the same distance away from each extender. So here each repeater is 1 dust away from each extender. Both repeaters will activate at the same time because repeaters don't care about signal strength. Whereas extenders, if there is a discrepancy in the signal strength provided to each extender, there will be a discrepancy in how long that extender extends the signal, because they're based on strength. But if that's confusing and you want to learn more, check out my video series on Let's Learn Redstone. We talk about that and everything else. And I promise that redstone is not as complex as it may sound. There are very few things that you actually need to learn. So check that out, or if you want to see more tutorials on piston doors, I have those as well, breaking down the different types and the different mechanics, from simple ones like the one we just made, to complex flush ones that are hidden in the wall. But that's all we got for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. Always remember that you are totally awesome, but above all, don't forget to have fun. Bye-bye!